Okay, so we're going to update your foldable. So the first thing that we did was change these X's to A's, just because that's what it looks like on your reference chart. And we're going to do all of these except for this one right here, quotient rule. We'll talk about that on Thursday. And then those are fine to leave like that. All right, so inside, we number these so that you can see where to put these. So you're going to write underneath your flop, you're going to write the rule. Oops. Write the rule and then some examples. Okay, so one, just in case you don't have this part, or, just so it's all together. Remember, any number to the 0 power is 1. Okay, so I would write that on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, I would do some examples. Like if I had 2x to the 0, that equals 1. Remember that if it's negative, I'll do a different color. So if I had like negative, I'll just do negative x to the 0, that would be negative 1. And if I had I'll just do x to the 0, that would be like 2 times 1, which would be 2. Okay, so just because you see a 0 doesn't mean it's 1. It just means that particular term is equal to 1. All right. Number 2 is our negative exponent. Okay, so that's the rule. But you might want to write on the other side that, if this is in the denominator, then it becomes the numerator. Okay, so you have to, let's do some examples. You have to think about where the negative exponent is. I'm having a hard time thinking of examples. Like if you had negative, say, negative x to the negative n, that's negative 1 over x. Let's put a number on that. Okay, and but if you had, say, a squared over b to the negative 3, and maybe there's a 2 in front of there. The 2, remember that's all 2 times a squared times b to the negative 3. The 2 doesn't have a negative exponent on, so it stays where it is. A squared, that's positive, stays where it is. But b to the negative 3 goes underneath because that exponent is negative. Okay. Number 3, our third rule, and that's what we did on Monday, I guess. A to the m times a to the m equals a to the n plus m. So when we have the same base, we add the exponents. So like x squared times x to the third will equal x to the fifth. Or even if these were in parentheses, same thing. I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. So what if we had like, let me get another color. A squared. I cannot think. Okay, times a to the negative 3. That would be a to the 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And again, we'd have to flip that over. Okay, and you can put a 1 there if you want. All right. Number 4, we're not going to do yet. So skip number 4, and we'll go to number 5. This is the roll we did yesterday. Power to a power. So a to the n raised to the nth power. Now we multiply n times m. So if I had x squared to the 3rd power, I get x to the 6th. Okay, if I had, let's try one like, my goodness, I just can't think. It's a good thing we did examples yesterday in class. If I had a squared b to the 3rd, raised to the 2nd power, that's a to the 4th, b to the 6th. Okay. All right. Oh, and then if I had like a coefficient on the outside, say -2, x to the 3rd, that -2 has no exponent, positive or negative, so it just stays -2, and then that becomes x to the 12th. All right, so that brings me to the last 2 rolls, and number 6 we already talked about, but it's not, I don't think it's on your reference chart. You're just supposed to know it. So if you have 2 numbers raised to a power, then you split it up, and it's that term raised to the power, and then that term raised to the power. Okay, and we just looked at a bunch of those examples, like if I had 2x raised to the 3rd power, that's 2 to the 3rd times x to the 3rd, and you can call that 8x to the 3rd if you want to. Okay, so you kind of have to distribute that exponent. Okay, be careful though, because if the coefficient, if the number is on the outside of the parentheses, like in the previous example, you don't do anything with it. So the same thing happens when you divide numbers and you raise them to a power as the last rule. Oops, get rid of that. And that is, you distribute. Okay, which we kind of looked at on that negative exponent worksheet. That happened. So if I have, let's see, a squared over let's say b, sorry, to the 3rd raised to the 4th power. That is a to the 8th over b to the 12th. You distribute that 4 because it would have been a squared to the 4th power over b to the 3rd to the 4th power. Alrighty, that's it. And then tomorrow we'll go over that quotient rule, and then that is all the rules, all the laws or properties of exponents that we have. Okay, so glue this in your journal, and then continue with the practice.